Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins with a description of how the universe was formed with some timeless special effects. Appearing out of the chaos is Pandora's groovy-looking jar, which when shattered becomes all of the surrounding planets in our solar system. Earth is the last to form, and when the gods materialize on the moon above it, Athena suggests that humans can't handle the evil released from the jar. To solve this dilemma, Zeus sends a ball of light into the city of Thebes, where it enters the body of the king's son instead of just making a demigod the old-fashioned way. Nearby in the temple of Hera, a shifty-looking rogue sneaks inside and kills the guards protecting a magical sword that he really wants. A soldier rushes to warn his commander Valkyas, but he's betrayed them and allowed the enemy inside Thebes along with their princess Ariadne. The daughter of King Minos has offered the kingdom to the traitor as long as he kills the king and queen along with their newborn baby Hercules. We never get to see them alive, but when Valkyas tries to shank the newborn, he learns that a selfless maid's already fled the city with him. She sacrifices herself when taking an arrow to the abdomen while ferrying little Herc down a river in his own baby-sized boat. We never see the new king of Thebes again, who just assumes that the waterfall a few miles down the river will kill the demigod. But Zeus interferes with human affairs once again by catching the plummeting crib with his claymation hand. His powers luckily prevent Herc from suffocating in the vacuum of space, and when his wife Hera tells him to put the baby back, he childishly just says okay. She then isn't happy that he plonked Herc in the river past the waterfall, but Zeus uses the "you didn't tell me where to place him" loophole. The scornful wife really hates this baby and decides that she's going to send a pair of the ugliest snakes in existence to kill him. But the baby Herc's hands turn into a full-grown man's and he squeezes the serpents to death. He then pretends to be all weak again while getting found by a couple of farmers who decide to adopt young Hercules because why not? Getting raised inside a little mushroom hut, a teenage Hercules is shown pushing a millstone around like he's Conan on the Wheel of Pain. Years later, a fully grown Herc helps his father cut down trees by just ripping the whole stump out of the ground like it's a carrot. His voice actor wonders where his supernatural strength comes from, but his father doesn't care as long as it's used to bring the firewood back home. The moment he's left alone in the woods, a savage grizzly gets sent by Hera to maul the old man to death in a failed attempt to kill Hercules. The son beats the bear costume into the ground, and when seeing that it killed his father, he wildly slings the animal carcass into space. It forms into the constellation Ursa Major, as Hera has been doing this repeatedly, but Herc just keeps turning her assassins into horoscopes. In light of her pet's failure, Hera tasks King Minos with killing Hercules, so he has a meeting with her agent of chaos on the moon. Daedalus delivers the king a trio of small mechanical monsters to do the task and promises that despite their tiny size they'll be bigger on Earth. She tells Minos that he should believe in gods, as despite literally talking to one, the king says that he only believes in science. Back on Earth, Herc's out plowing the fields when he's alerted to an attack on the mushroom and rushes home to discover his mother dead. She's been murdered by a flying automaton that's been sent to eradicate Hercules, whose hits with timber and an axe do little damage. Its real weakness lies in the size of the timber, and with a slightly skinnier piece, Herc's able to defeat the robotic assassin. He then cremates his mom and burns down his childhood home, as there's nobody else around that could use a roof over their head. Nearby, a tournament is being held to find a bodyguard for the princess Cassiopea, so Herc enters simply to make some money. Impressed by the stranger's strength to defeat everyone else, they then put him against two chariots that he leaps over to avoid their bladed wheels. He then takes them on the shins as an unharmed Herc catches the chariots and throws off the riders with another successful show of muscles. Still not good enough for the advisor Dorcon, they send out 10 small wrestlers, as apparently that's more difficult than the last two tests. Herc just crushes all of their torsos at once with a single log, then hurls it into space to show off, so the king says that maybe he's good enough to work security. This was all just to escort the princess to Athens, but the dork suggests yet another challenge for Hercules to clean the Augian stables in a single night. The king keeps indulging these impossible suggestions, as the stables meant to house over 1,000 horses, but that looks like a fib anyway. Cassie visits to find the janitor sleeping on the job with only a few minutes left until sunrise and the stables still a complete mess. Explaining that she wears the veil because an oracle told her that the first man who sees her face shall be her husband, Herc decides to make her a deal. If he can clean the stables, Cassiopea removes her veil, so she accepts, assuming that her father was correct in calling it an impossible task. Finally accurate to the mythology, Herc uses his muscles to divert the nearby river through the stables, turning the mess into a hospital-grade bathroom. The loser princess holds up her end of the deal and removes the veil with a very striking drop of image quality. The strangers lovingly gaze into each other's eyes for so long that even Zeus has enough and KOs them both with a bolt of lightning. The traitor Dorcons also joined Ariadne like every other man in Greece, and they dump Hercules in the most shallow ocean they could find. Cassiopea is then taken by sea to the city of Atlantis, where the evil princess intends to sacrifice her for her father's approval. Instead of drowning, Herc just wakes up on the bottom of the ocean and breaks free of the chains before swimming all the way to the nearest land. He gets found washed up on an island by an ugly old hag who takes him back to her shelter where she provides food in return for a few drops of his blood. She drinks it and transforms almost seamlessly into a beautiful sorceress who introduces herself as Circe. Having been imprisoned there by Minos, she's happy to assist in defeating him but first asks Hercules to help retrieve her magical amulet. She conjures up a sword and shield and takes Herc to the entrance of the underworld, which is supposedly guarded by the Hydra in this story. Meanwhile, Minos sees that the pair are working together and asks Deity to send another one of her robotic assassins since it worked so well last time. Instead of the Hydra or Cerberus, we get the entrance guarded by the three-headed automaton sent to kill the hero. This one's even worse than the last, and after missing with its laser cannon, Hercules reflects one back into itself and the machine's defeated. After his easiest challenge to date, the victors then enter the gates of hell and cross a rainbow bridge for whatever reason to reach the river Styx. The ferryman waits to take them across to Skull Mountain, where inside things get even stranger as they approach something called the Hand of Destiny. Under it's her talisman contained inside an egg called the primal seed of everything that exists, which the sorceress says is protected by 3 barriers. Hercules endures the pain of fire followed by freezing cold, which is only 2 by my count, but it's still good enough to retrieve the treasure. It's only now does Circe reveal that she isn't even able to take him to Atlantis, and this whole side story was just a complete waste of our time. She does however use the artifact's power to teleport them both to Africa to ask for the help of the king of the white people. Xenodama promises to give Hercules his transport called Prometheus's chariot if he can open a channel in his dusty continent. So with the help of an enlarged spell from the sorceress, Hercules grows 50 times his size and completely detaches Africa from Europe. This act wins him the magical chariot that can take them to Atlantis and save the princess, but unfortunately it doesn't come with any magical horses. That's not a problem for Hercules, who breaks apart the fortress to obtain a rock large enough to drag the 2 of them instead. He has Circe tie a magic rope to it as a normal one would break and hurls the boulder into space while getting pulled along behind it. Remember, they're only going to another location on Earth, so after their ride through the cosmos they must somehow return before the rope suddenly breaks. The 2 land in the water conveniently outside of Atlantis, and Circe reveals that she's lost her power, which caused her spell to fail. Because Hera was complaining that Zeus was giving them too much help, he sent Aphrodite to make the sorceress fall in love with Hercules, which completely diminishes her powers. They swim to shore through the legs of a colossus where everything turns turquoise for the next few minutes, which is a bit of a bummer. Herc gets told to enter the temple through the king's labyrinth, but instead of the famous Minotaur we get another abomination of science. The automaton shoots Circe dead with a laser and then fires at its actual target, who discovers this one's weakness to be a piece of metal. He battles the robotic centaur with a large anchor, and when it's defeated, Hera's steampunk assassin just walks itself into the ocean to blow up. We also keep showing Minos on the moon with Daedalus, but he talks to her like she's a servant and dismisses her to the realm of chaos whenever he pleases. In his castle, the princess has been cleaned up for the ritual, and her evil counterpart arrives in her tightest top to get her ready for the sacrifice. She's dressed up in a pair of seashells and taken to Minos, where his motive for doing all this gets even more convoluted. Something about pleasing Hera so that he can go to heaven, but he also doesn't think we should worship gods at all and instead believe in science instead. As a side quest, he also orders his daughter to get pregnant by Hercules, as he plans to make an army of little superpowered Hercs to take over the world. It's convenient then that when their donor arrives, he walks straight into a trapdoor and wakes up in the dungeons of Atlantis. The princess shows up and immediately tries to serve him a suspicious smelling grape juice, but he politely declines the trauma. Breaking free from his chains, he defeats all the prison guards by mostly just tossing them around as one inadvertently spears somebody's grandma. When they're all too afraid to stand up again, Herc demands the knife-wielding Ariadne to take him to the princess who's about to be sacrificed by Minos. He enters the sacrificial chamber without any resistance from the submissive damsel and walks her atop a volcano where she's to be thrown into. The king also worships a Roman god Vulcan to add some more confusion, and says that the sword he stole at the beginning of the movie's why he has so much power. It supposedly gives him control over chaos and allows him to pretty much wreak havoc without any of the other gods like Zeus stepping in to stop him. Just assume that's why Cassiopea doesn't fight back and just accepts her role as a sacrificial goat by willingly descending into the lava. The other princess at least has some fight in her and sends some more guards after Hercules, but he bends their swords and defeats them easily. She then cuts the rope sealing the entryway to the sacrificial chamber, but Herc hurls the giant doorknob through the door to confront her father. The king wields a flaming sword, which you'd assume is the only magical sword we've seen the whole movie, but luckily Minos was too stupid to grab that one. Herc's smart enough to retrieve it, and without much need for swordplay he impales the king, killing him and rescuing the seemingly grateful princess. Before the pair can leave, they're confronted by the vengeful orphan, but Herc underarms the sword of Thebes into her stomach and Ariadne collapses dead. Her corpse dissolves into ashes, leaving only her crown behind as Hercules recovers the sword and the two soon-to-be newlyweds escape Atlantis. One of these recent events has caused the place to self-destruct, killing thousands of innocent people, as it appears like Herc might run back to save them. He doesn't, and the whole city collapses into the ocean, while our so-called hero questions if the princess is really Cassiopea or just some witch in disguise. All she gives is some cryptic reply about being both, and the two kiss to the screams of dying Atlanteans, which is probably another jab against Conan. And the movie ends.